Hey, my name is Daniel Farmer. I am originally from France. My folks are from Ohio. I grew up kind of all over in France. I was born in Limoges, and then I moved to the States in 2001. So I've been in the States since then, went to school in Minnesota, and I've been in Milwaukee since 2007. So what is that? 14 years, holy crap. It's a long time. So I'm currently teaching at Dance Studio. We're in Walker's Point. It's 5th and National. There's this beautiful space in the old Milwaukee Ballet building. So we've got the cream city brick, the super tall ceilings. My friends Josh and Amber, who own Dance Studio, put down some beautiful dance flooring, and we've got mirrors along the wall. So it's this beautiful space and a kick-ass sound system. So if we need to get the music bumping to get the blood flowing, we got that. So I started Capoeira in Paris. I had a couple of high school buddies who had seen a couple commercials. I think Nokia had a commercial with like a couple playing Capoeira on the beach or something like that. And they're like, oh, there's this cool thing, you want to take some classes with us? So it was me and my two buddies, and then I started with them. They dropped out after a couple of months, and I've been doing it ever since. Long story short, in colonial Brazil, after the Portuguese stole some Africans and participated obviously in the transatlantic slave trade, you had these encampments, these slave quarters called the senzalas, as well as these breakaway independent republics called the quilombos in Brazil. And basically what happened was like a meshing of African cultures with this sort of newfound, Portuguese language and musical instruments. And sort of on the outskirts of society, these outcasts practiced sort of a fighting game, and the folklore that's sort of grown up around it is that it was a way to train to fight, but disguising it as a dance, right? So it's you learning to be sneaky, learning these techniques to take people down, to fight from the ground, and then you're disguising it with like, oh, these African rituals and rhythms, and it's like, so that the idea is, right, the slave masters would be like, oh, they're just doing some African dancing, but actually they're training to fight for their freedom. So that's kind of the origins. It's evolved a lot since then. It continues to evolve. It's still evolving today, but that's the long and short of it. How did I get started in the Milwaukee area? Oh, that's a good question. So I think the way Capoeira spread throughout the world is, in the late 80s and 90s, the Brazilian masters started emigrating, and they went first to like Europe, and then when they came to the States, it was the coast, right? So it was New York, California, and the Midwest was just kind of this like gaping hole of no Capoeira. So I was able, when I went to college in Minnesota, to find like a small group, but it quickly fizzled. And then when I moved to Milwaukee, there was a Capoeira master here, so that's how I got started. But then the master left, and there was some like a little bit of limbo with that particular group of people, and then I had kids, and so I was kind of out of the scene. And eventually, this guy, Marco Desso, also known in Capoeira as Graduado Sapo, took over the group and affiliated us with this international group called Capoeira Nago, which is what this is about. And he kind of revived the group and had a few big events, and then passed the torch on to his protege, a friend of mine. And then when that friend of mine left town, he moved to Austin. It was either pass the baton to me or let the group die. And I was like, well, no, I love Capoeira. I want to practice Capoeira. And even if the scene in Milwaukee and in the Midwest isn't as strong as it could be, I want to do my part to contribute to that. So that's when I took over the group, started running classes. That was about 4 or 5 years ago. So the way I teach my classes is fairly straightforward and linear. As with any movement class, you're going to want to start by warming up. So I'll lead a warm-up and then run us through some basic sequences. And it's still part of the warm-up. It's just part of getting the blood flowing. You don't want to jump in right away to some explosive, aggressive movements. You're just going to injure yourself. I do a dedicated part of the class on agility movements. We go up and down the floor to focus on sort of what I would call the basic vocabulary of our style of Capoeira. And then the bulk, the meat of the class is the partner sequences. And the emphasis of the day kind of depends on who's a class. I try to tailor my classes right to the level of the people who are there. But that's sort of like the meat of the class is that partner work, kick, dodge, escape, cartwheel, whatever. And generally speaking, if we have time, I like to end class with a roda, right? So the wheel or the circle of capoeira where we practice for real, as it were. So that's my general structure for a capoeira class. So the music in capoeira is really critical. It sort of depends on whether you're thinking about just the class itself or the actual practice. For the class, obviously I even start my classes sometimes with like hip hop or reggaeton or something like that. That doesn't matter. But when you're actually practicing capoeira, one of the things that I really like about it is it's holistic, right? So when you're learning capoeira, you're not just learning like, oh, I do this movement and I do that movement, I do a kick and then I do a cartwheel. You're also learning about the history, you're also learning the music, because the idea is you need to be able to go somewhere and run your own roda, right? You need to be able to play the instruments, you need to be able to sing the songs, and then the music that you're playing, you're generating yourself, along with the style of game that you're playing, there's sort of like a dialogue there. So if the music is really fast and upbeat, the game that you're playing in the roda is going to be fast and upbeat. If the song is mournful and the rhythm is a little bit slower, the kind of game that you're playing is going to be closer to the ground, a little bit more dialogical, flowy, something like that. So for beginners, I would say don't worry too much about the music, but the further you get along in capoeira, the more you need to learn to listen to the music, to understand the music, so that means learning a little bit of Portuguese, and then also to make the music, to sing the songs, to learn the rhythms, and to play the instruments. Okay, so the ranking system in capoeira is very interesting. So in our group, Capoeira Nago, we have these colored cords that we tie around our waist. They also help to keep the pants up, which is useful. It's sort of like a belt system in traditional Asian martial arts. The cord system in Capoeira Nago goes from white to black. It takes 20-25 years to get to that top level. And generally speaking, the capoeira masters who wear a black cord, the black cord is less about, oh, they know this move or they know that sequence. It's more they've contributed to the art form, they've built a community, they've stuck with it year in and year out. And then along the way you get different colored cords. So in our group, it goes gray, green, yellow, orange, blue, and then that's mixed colors, so white and gray, white and green, and then full colors. And then there's the graduated cords. I won't run through all of the colors, but it's a rainbow of colors. And then at the top you get purple for like the professor cord, brown for contramestre, and black for mestre. And mestre is like the top level where you start getting invited to other groups' events. You start making a name for yourself in the capoeira world. There's two things that inspire me as an instructor. The first is when I see really experienced practitioners of capoeira, masters of the art, playing. It's so beautiful, it's so fluid. Anytime I think you see someone who's really at home in their body and in their art, it's just really inspiring. I think capoeira is a uniquely beautiful art. So that's the first thing that inspires me. The second thing that inspires me as an instructor is honestly the enthusiasm of new students. This past year, even with COVID, I've had a couple new students, and the energy they bring to my classes is just infectious because everything is new. So they're learning this movement for the first time, they're nailing this trick for the first time, they're kind of learning the rituals and the etiquette of the roda for the first time, and it's like this young puppy energy, right? It's just like, oh my God, this is so exciting. And so that's really motivating, obviously, as an instructor, right? You're passing on this art form, and I think for students who've been doing it for a while, it's a little bit like, okay, we're doing this again. But for somebody for whom it's new, they see it with fresh eyes, and I think that energy spreads even to the more experienced students. My advice to somebody who's looking to start capoeira is, I think, not that different from the advice I'd give to someone who's starting any kind of movement practice or starting to work out. It'd be, on the one hand, take it slow, be kind to yourself, Don't push too hard right away because you don't want to burn out. And don't get frustrated with yourself when you can't nail the movements or you're not as flexible as you'd like to be. So that's on the one hand, right? Be kind to yourself, hydrate, rest, all that stuff. On the other hand, take it seriously. You're not going to get good at something doing it once a week from time to time and not really digging in. So there's a way of doing both of those at the same time, of taking it slow and being patient and kind to yourself, but also coming to class twice a week, training on your own, going to YouTube to see what other people are doing to learn the songs, taking your physical fitness, your nutrition, your sleep, all of these things seriously, and investing a little bit into it, right? Because you're also investing in yourself. You're investing in your physical well-being, you're investing in your social life, your community, and you're growing as a person anytime you take on this a new art form, a new cultural practice, a new hobby. So those two things. Be nice to yourself, take it easy, but also take it seriously and keep at it for a while. It's gonna take a little while before you see the results, but if you stick with it, you're gonna get good. I think the biggest thing I want to share about capoeira is that it's fun. Some people try to wrap their heads around the martial art piece of it, and they're like, oh, is it useful for self-defense? And my honest answer is no. Like, if you want to learn self-defense, learn self-defense. But even then, take that with a grain of salt, because depending on how reputable of a place you go to learn self-defense, it can just be a marketing gimmick, right? For marketing, a marketing gimmick for martial arts schools. It's like, oh yes, I'll teach you how to punch and kick, and that's useful for self. No, it's not. It's, don't approach it from that angle. If you want to learn mixed martial arts, go to a place that'll teach you mixed martial arts. If, on the other hand, you want to have fun, you want to kick your friends, you want to learn how to cartwheel, you want to get flexible, you want to get strong, and yeah, improve your balance, improve your mental resilience, do all of these things, then capoeira is awesome. It's also useful. So my capoeira master did fight in the UFC. He's a mixed martial artist, so it's not like it's unrelated to learning to beat the tar out of people. That's not the primary focus, right? Capoeira is its own practice. You have to approach it as its own thing. I would say the biggest thing I want to share about capoeira is that it's fun. You should come, you should try it out. It's a blast.